It may seem hard to believe now, but it's been nearly 7 years since the first release of Hatoful Boyfriend in Japan, 6 here in the US. I'm sure we all remember the pigeon dating sim visual novel, which became a cult legend before it was even released. I mean, look at it. How could this not inspire memes for a generation, which is like a year on the internet? But many people believe the game is actually more than just its silly premise, and that it's actually a touching and sincere game, one that's well written and with pretty good art. The game was such a hit, it's hard to believe that its creator hasn't really done much since. What happened, and just who is that creator to begin with? That would be Japanese manga artist Hato Moa. Before Hatoful Boyfriend, Moa was trying to break into the writing and manga industry in Japan. She'd done a lot of fan art and self-published manga in the mid to late 2000s. Hatoful Boyfriend started as an April Fool's joke. Moa was satirizing popular dating sims. The game was a huge success though, and the property propelled her forward in the manga community, allowing her to publish several books based on the game. Moa was ready to move on to other things almost immediately though. Her next project, Black Holmes, was officially announced by Moa sometime in 2012. The soonest I could find was at Comic 82, a twice-annual comic convention in Japan. These pamphlets were handed out advertising the game. They gave some details on its two leads, Moa and American writer Luke O'Brien. Word of the game didn't officially leave Japanese shores until January 2013, when the Black Holmes website went live. The website was entirely in Japanese, but an eventual English version arrived to give us the details. As the name and artwork implied, Black Holmes was a twist on the classic Sir Arthur Conan Doyle character, Sherlock Holmes. London, 1889. The prosperity and... I'm gonna stop doing that now. The prosperity and advancement in civilization during the Victorian era cast a dark shadow over the city. People's malice grew deeper and deeper as society began to stagnate. This is the story of a detective, fascinated by crimes as a human being's art, and a king of the underworld who has devoted his life to the detective. 3 characters were eventually announced. Noah Holmes, who's described as a sarcastic private detective who has great affection for crimes. There is a rumor that he's abandoned by his former assistant thanks to his twisted tongue. He is logical and atheistic. There's also Judas Moriarty, the brains behind an underground criminal syndicate in London. He is a taciturn man and seems to be quite bad at communicating with other people. A 3rd character was also announced on the Japanese website, a woman named Ray. Unfortunately, the section about her has been taken down and lost to time. She could have been a gender-flipped version of Watson, a different take on Irene Adler, or an entirely new character. It's impossible to say. Other than that, little is known about what Black Holmes is or was, other than that it would have been another visual novel. News of the game made headlines on English-speaking gaming sites back when the English website went online back in August 2015, but since then, nobody's typed another word about it. In fact, as far as I can tell, this video might be the first time anyone's said anything about the game ever since then. Oh, how special. At some point, likely around early to mid-2016, development went on hiatus. Later that same year, the Japanese website was replaced with a single image saying, "We'll be back." The English version is still as it ever was. Our old friend Domain Tools tells us that the website has been updated in some capacity as recently as September 19th, 2017. The question of what happened to Black Holmes has a pretty easy answer, one that comes directly from Mo herself. I emailed her a few questions and got this in response. Just remember, English isn't really her first language, so bear that in mind. Black Holmes' website is temporarily suspended now, she says. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. The project is still alive, but it's been postponed mainly for 2 reasons. I'm waiting for some of the staff members to finish their current work, and we decided to make it a richer pay one for more platforms instead of a free casual one. Maybe I'll restart the project with supporters of my fellow company to make it. I emailed her some follow-up questions, but didn't get a reply. She didn't say who those staff members are, but there are a few listed on the website, including the aforementioned Luke O'Brien, Andy Han, who was listed as composer, and Kotori Nico, who designed the website. I found a blog from a Spanish writer who posted the images of those pamphlets, and they claim that this Luke O'Brien, attached as a writer, is the journalist who writes for the Huffington Post, the New York Times, and has had his work at a whole bunch of other places. I couldn't find anyone able to translate this pamphlet, at least for a reasonable rate, nor could I get into contact with O'Brien, so I can't really verify this. There's some grade A journalism for you. There's not really a whole lot here though, frankly. A game that barely anybody knew about, and the few that did knew little of it, that got delayed like a million other indie games that we never ever hear about. The game's not dead, but after all these years, who knows if it'll ever see the light of day. Being a huge Sherlock fan, I hope we do, especially after the success of Hatoful Boyfriend. But like many things in life, only time will tell. One thing is sure, that time will tell. If you were wrong, the brightest ring around the moon will darken. That's not how it goes. Wait, no, I got the rhythm wrong. You're leaving now.